Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Daphne Lage here. Join Nita Lanning and me on the Ragin' 2 The Vlogs show, where we talk about everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. Looking for hour-long conversations about indie comics, social media marketing, and crowdfunding, with the occasional rant and story time? Head on over to the Ragin' 2 channel on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern to join in the chat.
Hit the button.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, Myopic Proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, and sometimes I answer the phones for Critical Blast Consulting Company. All real companies. I'm serious. I'm working on that cloning device so I can get some, extra help around here. Tonight, you want to talk about comics? Then you want to talk to Rusty Gilligan. Do you want to talk about trading cards instead? Okay, then you need to talk to Rusty Gilligan. Hey, would you like to talk about professional wrestling? You might want to get Rusty Gilligan on your show. Did I mention child actor? Yeah, I mean, I never know where to categorize Rusty when I'm going to have him on the show. And we're just going to talk about a hodgepodge of things because he's got his fingers in all kinds of pies all the time as an artist and as an actor, as a voice actor. You know what? Ladies and gentlemen, Rusty Gilligan. Rusty, how are you, man?
How's it going, man?
You know what? I'm ready to pop the top on this one tonight and just kick back and talk about comics and what you're doing and stuff, man.
Well, I will join you, at least as far as I can go.
There you go. I'm down. I'm back down to the Red's Apple Ale here. I made the mistake of going to the store and I'm like, oh, they don't have the Reds. And they didn't have the Bud Light Orange. Apparently I'm a frou-frou citrusy kind of beer drinker, but they had this like hard root beer there. I'm like, oh, I like root beer. I'll try that. Oh, that's a sipping bottle. You don't down that one the way you do. Yeah, it knocked me on my ass the first time. Like, that was not a fun show. I don't remember the show, but I don't think it was fun. So
it got
man,
it got the root beer gave you a boot rear.
Oh yes. It was like a very strong rum and coke.
There you go.
So like I said, man, I never know what to tell people who you are. So for the benefit of the chat, who the heck is Rusty Gilligan?
I consider myself a entertainer. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I enjoy doing a lot of things. My goal in life is to make people laugh and to entertain and to have a good time with people. And I try to get very personal. So when I started out, I was a child actor. I had done I had done a Broadway play, and then toured with the company to California, and then stayed to continue acting. Excuse me. And then I went from there. I did a stint on the radio, which I really enjoyed, KLOS in Los Angeles, California. I had, and also with KHJ, I forgot, in California. I wrote news for KNBC California when I was there, because I was there for a long time. So if I mention California a lot, you know why. Then I got into comics. I've always been a reader. I got my first comic book back in 1960. Always been a reader. I got into comics when I was in high school, working professionally. I was doing flyers for conventions. I was doing ads, and my first job I got from Stan Lee. I actually did a British Marvel pinup, which I thought was really cool, through an agency called Majesty House, who I doubled back on later on, because years later I was editor of a magazine, and I wound up selling the rights to the British version of the magazine to Majesty House, which I thought was kind of cool. But I've done wrestling. I sang opera when I was a kid. I've been doing comic art and trading card stuff for a long time, probably since about, I'd say about 80. And I do a lot of voice acting now. So there you go.
You are all over the place.
That's the whole garden.
Yeah. So you got your first job in comics from Stan Lee himself. How did that come about? How'd you guys meet up? It's
a cute story. I enjoy. This is probably the only story about myself that I like. And one that doesn't end with me slipping on a banana peel and falling into a pit of vipers, depending on how you look at it. I was a child actor, and my mother had taken me on a interview for a commercial. Commercial interviewing was very different back then. They used to have what was called cattle calls. So they would say, to all the kids in the local area, with the agencies, in other words, send over all your kids that are 8 years old, 10 years old, whatever. So I went ahead and I got my call from my agent, and I showed up, and they line up like 50 kids against the wall, and they go, too fat, too skinny, don't like the separation in his teeth, you stay, redhead, okay, whatever, you go to the back of the line, we'll choose again. And they go all the way through. Finally, they would grab the last couple of kids, hand them a script, and say, okay, learn these 2 lines so that you can, do your interview, and we'll go from there. So as I'm in the hallway, sitting on the floor with my mother learning the lines, the door opens up to a studio, and Stan Lee walks out. And I looked up at him and I said, hey, you're you. And he goes, yeah, I'm me. And then we started talking. I told him how much I loved comic, like every other kid, you just gush. I mean, you're a volcano of dumbassery. And I'm sitting there going, I love Peter Parker, and I love this, and, Iron Man, and on and on and on. I'm going nuts, X-Men, whatever. So my mother goes, why don't you show him some of your pictures? That obviously put him on the spot, because here he is obviously trying to be professional. And this middle-aged woman turns around and says, why don't you show him your pictures? Well, obviously his feet are glued to the floor by embarrassment. So in the car, I had a ton of pictures, and I showed him my Captain America picture, and he really liked it. And he asked if I had traced it, and I had said no. It was all me. So he signed the back of it, which I thought was really nice. And he goes, "Here's my card, and I want you to give me a call in a couple of weeks." Okay. I gave him a call in a couple of weeks, and within a month or two, I had done a pinup of Captain America with Big Ben in the background, and it wound up in a British weekly.
At which point you were still a kid. I mean,
Yeah,
10-year-old or something.
Now, after that had happened, I continued with acting. I wound up doing a bunch of flyers for conventions. I did ad art for hey, Pops, how's it going, man?
Pops has the back door key.
Anyway, I wound up doing a bunch of convention flyers, miscellaneous art. I wound up doing artwork for ads through Comics Buyer's Guide, the big newspaper at the time.
I love that.
I loved it. To me, it was a real trade, which is what I modeled the magazine I had done years later after. We did like a lot of hard hitting type articles about the industry, but I really enjoyed it. And then after that, it was just, one job after another in trading cards. I designed a lot of card sets for companies, and I wound up doing, like what they call independent, but what I call small press. I wound up doing a lot of small press books and on and on and on. And it was right around that time that I skipped over the hurdle and went from acting into wrestling. But before that, I had done a lot of film work. I did some artwork for Disney. I did artwork for the Heavy Metal movie back in 1981. And I enjoyed it. There was a lot of opportunity during a time where there was no opportunity, which I don't know if that makes sense, but I was always taught by an old pro, in times of no work, make your own. So literally that's what I did. I didn't wait for times for me to get my foot in the door. I literally would do something and I would force my foot in the door. I put myself in situations where somebody had to notice what I was doing. Something had to be done. I remember one time I was working with a magazine and I was just writing a couple of articles. And then all of a sudden I sent over a packet with one of my articles. And you have to remember there were barely Xerox machines. There was no overnight. There was no cell phones, no digital anything.
Yeah. I remember the dark ages.
Yeah, exactly. So what I did was I took one of my pictures of a werewolf and I stuck it in with my article. And I made sure to put it right between the pages of it. And I went ahead and I sent it into the magazine. And the guy called me out on the phone and he goes, there was a piece of artwork stuck inside of the article. And I said, "Oh, how did that get in there? I'm sorry." I said, "You know what? Just send it back and I'll pay the postage." No. Well, this is really good. We have an ad for a Halloween thing coming up. Can we use this? I would be honored. Go ahead. Well, normally we pay and then it just continued. And it's a little different today because I like to complain a lot about this, but I won't complain. But the thing is that at one time, everybody wanted to be like, I want to draw Spider-Man. I want to draw Wonder Woman. I want to draw Batman, Superman, blah, blah, blah. And, you would put yourself in positions of going to a show, talking to an editor or getting your portfolio reviewed or whatever. And there was a barrier of professionalism. You had to cross that barrier. When the internet came and people started adapting to digital work, the barrier just dropped. Now you can produce your own thing. You don't have to work for somebody. You can work for yourself. You don't have to aspire to Spider-Man. You can make anything man. You could do whatever you wanted to do. And there was no umbrella over you. You didn't have to look up and say, "Oh, well, they're going to tell me what to do." I can just do it. They're not going to tell me I misspelled a word. I'll just spell check it. And then I don't have to print it. I can just digitally put it online.
And you don't have to take it to them. They can find you.
Right, exactly. And but the thing is that a lot of the old techniques work really well. I keep telling people, and I get blasted for this a lot. I keep telling people, take free work. It doesn't. To me, I hear all the time. Don't do anything free, because if you do that, they'll make money and you won't make anything. And people always do the house painting analogy. If I ask you to paint my house, but I'll tell everybody you painted it, but I won't pay you, maybe you'll get work or whatever it is. How do you learn how to work? How do you learn how to survive in the profession? And I used to do a panel at shows when I used to, like lectures. I've actually done it at places like USC and UCLA. I did it at Stony Brook University in New York. I even went over the border to Canada one time at a university and did it. And it was called Free to Fee, how to take your free work and make it pay real money for you. And I would teach people how to do it. And no kidding, I would get letters in the mail and they'd be like, or emails even. And they would be like, can I just give you a percentage because you taught me something that I blah, blah, blah. Or, oh my God, you saved my ass because I wanted to work on this job and I took it for free. And now I'm making money at the free job and whatever. It's interesting because I was taught all these tricks by somebody who was in the 40s and 50s working in pulp magazines. And then they taught it to people who are in the 60s and 70s working comics. And then
anybody we would know?
Well, I worked with people like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Gray Morrow, people like that. A lot of pulp writers, people I can't even remember the names of anymore. Because when you're a kid, they'll be like, you should cheat your hand a certain way. Here, let me show you. Grab a comic book off the shelf, rip the page out and like circle it and like point little things to it. Like, take this home and study this, blah, 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 blah. Or get Xeroxes, at that time we used to call them Veloxes in the mail. They were like this rubbery type plastic that you would write on with your pen and it would ruin the pen because whatever the stuff was that they developed the paper with got on the pen and just ruined every marker you used. But literally it's so easy to get work these days. And I hear from people, oh, I wish I was working on something. Can you get me a job? Because I really want to work on something. I hate to sit and do nothing. And I would be like, dude, you shouldn't be doing nothing. You should be doing everything.
Yeah.
But whatever, I digress. But anyway, I just get angry when I hear it. Can I any way you could get me a job? Can you put me on someone's list? It's like, well, you're going to be on someone's, SHIT list pretty soon for begging so much.
Exactly. Yeah, make your own work. That's brilliant advice, and more and more people should take it. Pops, how you doing tonight, man?
I just wanted to pop in and say hi to Rusty and thank you for him offering to do some sketch cards for the campaign and whatnot. He's an easy interview, isn't he?
Yeah, just put a quarter in and walk away.
Yeah, I know. I'm a long talker, but you know what? I'm so used to being like in front of people doing the panels and being at the table and fooling around with everybody. I would be at shows and people would walk up and I'd have free trading cards for them. I would just, that just was my gig. So I'd be doing like a magic trick, or I'd be, insulting people, which the Don Rickles bit. And it would be like, well, here's one for you. And then automatically the guy would reach out and I would look at him and I'd go, oh my God, I was handing this to her. And I'd look at her and I'd say, boy, you need a better choice in men. What the hell? And I would go on and on and on. It's like, here's one for you, and here's one for your bodyguard in the back, that kind of thing. Yeah. And you can't do it today. But because
no.
in the past 2 years, forget it. But I used to make fun of people's clothes, and I used to drop stuff on the floor. I'd be like, "You want a card?" Blah, and I just throw it at them, and I'd be like, "There's your card,"
It's all right, Rusty. People make fun of my hand all the time. We still make fun of people. It's okay.
I just people are a little sensitive now, but that's that's okay. You got to learn how to adapt. That's
People have gone full on literal with everything. Metaphor died.
Yeah, I look at the past 5 years, especially the past 2-3 years of this pandemic. I look at people being even more sensitive, and a lot of harsh feelings. I guess that's the nicest way to put it. Have been aired out. A lot of dirty laundry has been aired out in public, and social media doesn't help. Social media is the current crack, and everybody is just on it. But I keep my nose clean. I don't talk about politics, and I don't talk about world events on my page. I post silly stuff on my page. I post work. People ask me questions, and I help them out. Look at my portfolio, and how does this look? Oh, it looks good. You need to learn anatomy. The shading looks nice. Whatever. On and on and on. It's not like it used to be. I can't say stuff like, "Oh my God, your mom wouldn't even hang that on the refrigerator, even if she was blind." So you can't do anything like that anymore because you'd get your
old pros used to be brutal.
Oh, yeah.
I had a friend who went to a convention, and Neil Adams was there, and he was taking his portfolio. And he came back. I was like, "So what happened?" He's like, "You don't want to know." I was like, "No, what happened?" And his buddy finally told me. He says, "Yeah, Neil Adams went through his portfolio and said, 'This is masturbation. It doesn't make anybody feel good but you, and it doesn't produce anything.'"
I know Neil. I went to the Wizard convention in Pennsylvania, and I walked up to his table. This is after knowing him, and I go, "Hi, Neil. How you doing?" His wife was there, and I go, "How are you?" And she goes, "Fine." And he looks at me and he goes, "Do I know you?" And I'm like, "Dude." And I started to walk away, and he's like, No, I'm kidding. Jim Steranko, that's the one you have to be careful around at conventions because he won't let you take a picture of him. People mob his table, and all he does, you think I'm bad, all he does is talk. Literally, he is literally on a campaign for president every single show that he's at. It's literally 432 pages from now, and he never stops. And as pretty girl, "Oh well, you can take my picture. That's fine. Would you like to buy something? Yeah, it's $150, but for you, I'll make it special, 151. And I promise to spell my name right." On and on and on and on. He's a great guy. Both of them are great. But they're not as harsh as the big three used to be in the industry, and God bless them, they all passed away. But in his heyday, Stan Lee was a monster when you went to conventions. Nice guy, but professionally a monster. And then William Shatner and Adam West, they would just kick your butt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All great guys. God bless them. All great guys. But
I love this animated special that they did for Batman, where they had Adam West voicing the Batman character, and then they had William Shatner voicing Two-Face. It was the last.
It was great, and the funny thing about him voicing the part is it's kind of a crossover in pop culture because when you think about like the way DC has been had positioned themselves with the 66 Batman and the Superman movies and the Wonder Woman show and all of those retro versions led up to their CW Crisis episode and got people rejuvenated for that. And then it appeared and it was good. I actually worked on that trading card set and I was really happy working on it. Pardon me. Wow. Lot of fun working on trading card sets. I actually very much enjoy cards almost as much as I enjoy comics.
Now, you do a comic called Mac in Trouble.
Yep.
Is this, where can people find this and what's it about?
Well, you can find the digital versions on Indie Planet or on Drive-Thru. I usually have a page up where people can buy the book, but for right now, the past couple of years, I haven't been able to do conventions aside from the COVID thing going around. I've also had a couple of health problems, so I'm about to put up something again. So if people want to follow me or go on my Facebook page, I usually put up work and they'll see the announcement, especially because I have a campaign coming up later this year for a Mac in Trouble book. Cool. But Mac in Trouble, I'm going to share a picture with you. Hold on a second here. Share screen. Why do they make these things so complicated? There we go. There you go. Mac in Trouble is my creation. I won't go into the long, boring details, but I was sick for a long time, and my wife brought home a kitten, and he was handicapped, and that was Mac. And I started to wake up and get back to work and take care of him, and like everybody does when they have pets. You know, the cat says this, the dog says that, look how funny they are, blah, blah, blah. But It got the wheels turning on the inside. And I thought, I'm going to go ahead and do a strip. So I started doing cartoon strips. And I had them in a couple of magazines and in a couple of papers. And it was really good. It was really funny. And then I got into the comics. And Dan Gorman, fantastic artist that's done literally just about everything, started working with me, and we did our first Mac in Trouble comic. And there's different versions of it. There was one for the state of New Jersey. There was a director's cut. There was a regular cut, sketch cover, on and on and on. And that led into what was called Amazing Tales, TAILS. And it was an all prose book. It was like reading a pulp with miscellaneous art. And it became very popular, which, I was happy about. Mac in Trouble, while I'm doing this, I'm going to pull up another picture for you. So Mac in Trouble are two cats that are cartoon cats that are in the real world. And
I get it. So they're cartoons, but they're in the real world. It's
right.
Like Roger Rabbit kind of thing,
right? Or like Ninja Turtles, or along those lines. Let me see here. I'm gonna share this picture with you. They should have one button. Just click, and you're done. There they are. There's the two cats that they're based on in real life too. The black and white one is Mac, and then the striped one was Trouble. He passed away about a year ago. And what they do is they work for a sci-fi type, like a secret industry, and they send them out on missions. So they wind up meeting characters like, in one adventure, Abraham Lincoln, and another one, Paul Bunyan. They work with movie stars, and they work with aliens, and on and on and on. And the base of operations is called the movie studio. It's the nexus of realities. So as you're going into the movie studio, you'll see like Keystone Cops on one side, Gladiators on the other, Robin Hood like sipping beer next to like Cleopatra kind of thing, and aliens flying by, and on and on and on. And the bookkeeper at the movie studio sends them out on missions, and that's where they wind up getting into trouble. They got mistaken for being the new agents coming to work for the movie studio, and they haven't lived it down since. So right now, I'm working with a movie studio in the United Kingdom called Boombitos. And it's run by the producer Michael Doss, who I do a lot of voices for their cartoons. They have a wrestling cartoon, and they have a couple of others. And I do voices. I actually do the voice of a flamingo for the wrestling cartoon. It's all about animals. And I'm going to be doing a voice for a secret cartoon that they have coming up, which is very funny. And I've done some narration for them, but the studio is actually working on a Mac in Trouble film, an animated film. So they're going to be with superheroes, and they're going to be fighting zombies all the way through. So with Mac being sarcastic and Trouble being a scaredy cat, it's going to be, quite an adventure, I would say. People are going to look at it, and they're going to see some old time animation with some great celebrity voices. We have celebrities from the sports world and from the music world, and also a couple from the comic book scene too, that are going to be working together. As a matter of fact, two of the people, one was in the WWE and the other one was on Walking Dead.
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. COVID kind of put the kibosh on it. It should have been already released. But it took a while to work around the animation and working with a couple of new artists. So it's back on track now, since everything is, kind of down.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we talked about, not the last time you were on, but the time before last, you were listed on IMDb. You got a huge listing on Internet Movie Database because of your work in art departments. And you did a lot of the art that people will see in some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, like the I want to say the Avengers. I don't know particularly which Avengers, but
the original.
It was all of them.
It was the first one.
The first one, okay.
Yeah, Marvel had kind of an interest. My participation with Marvel was kind of interesting because I worked on Spider-Man 2 and 3, the Tobey Maguire movies, and incidentally, my favorite. Screw the rest of them, but you didn't hear that from me. That's just between us three, okay? No one else could hear that. And
I just saw Toby today.
Yeah, oh, that looks great. I know. I still haven't seen it. It bugs the crap out of me.
If you liked Crisis on Infinite Earths, you will love No Way Home.
I love alternate Earths and time travel type stories, apocalyptic type stories. So I've heard that it's going to be right up my alley, but real quick, I worked on the Spider-Man 2 and 3, and let me see if I have a picture of it. And then with Spider-Man, I had done what we call production art. I don't think I have it here. Anyway, sometimes you work on costume stuff. Sometimes you work on the character poses. What I was told in the beginning was, this is the way Spider-Man moves, and this is blah, blah, blah. And we looked at it, and we had said in the beginning, well, you know what? That's not the way Spider-Man is. Spider-Man isn't a football player. He's not a Captain America broad-chested character. Yeah. He is more like an ice skater or a ballet dancer. He has, he's very lithe, and he has
skinny little nerd.
So what we did is when we drew it, this is a battle damaged one, but when we had drawn this, we had put these. I don't know, does it show my mouse? There we go. We put these lines. If you guys are probably way too young for this, I know I am, but many years ago there used to be a thing where people would get dancing lessons by mail. Arthur Murray dancing lessons. And what they would do is they would take large pieces of paper and show where your feet worked. So what we did was we actually made the footwork on the bottom. And what we did was we showed, he'll glide a bit, he'll move a bit, he'll stick to something, hard steps, on and on and on. And that's basically what we did for that film. Let me see if there's another one here. Hold on a second. This was the original idea for Venom, but it never got used. And I don't want to blow anybody's gasket or say anything wrong. So I'm just going to say that the story that floats around about what was supposed to be Spider-Man 4 is a total fabrication. The real Spider-Man 4 was this Venom, and there's a whole story around it, but I can't say what it was. But anyway, this was a big thrill for me working on the films. I went on to work on Captain America, the very first one, the first Avenger. I can't show any art from that. I wasn't allowed to keep any, and I wasn't allowed to do anything with it. Unfortunately, certain things have restrictions on it. Like, for example, I worked on Doctor Who, not allowed to show any of that. And I worked on aftermarket stuff for Vampirella, wasn't allowed to show any of that. I actually worked on an X-Men cartoon back in the early 2000s that never got put on the air. It was supposed to be the sons and the daughters of, and I wasn't even allowed to show any of that either, or keep any of it either. Once you do it, they'll say, you know what, as part of your contract, you got to mail it in, whether it was rejected or not. But that's the way licensing works, you know. As for the Avengers, that was a fun ride. But the good thing is, I don't have to leave home. I get to sit in my jammies, sip hot tea, let the news on all day long, or Star Trek all day long, draw my ass off, and then, you know, email it or black bag it, and I'm done. You know.
Yeah, it's not like the days of the Marvel bullpen, you know, where everybody shows up at the office.
When I worked on Heavy Metal, the movie, there was no cell phones, there was no overnight shipping, there was no copiers like Xerox copiers, no internet, there was nothing. It was literally draw on paper. And my mother, because I was too young, would drive me to Los Angeles International Airport, and we actually had to book a flight so that it could be put in the cargo of the flight and get there either later on that day or early the next day, and then they would have to pick it up in Canada because the studio I worked out of was in Canada. So, I mean, they paid for it, thank God, because I can't imagine, you know. But I mean, if you could imagine like a $75 cargo overnight stack of paper inside of an envelope, and then somebody had to go to the airport on that side and pick it up. And the funny thing was, the first 50 or 60 images that I drew, everything from like the size of a quarter all the way up to like 11 by 17 boards, all rejected 100%. And I was so crestfallen. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to lose this job and it's going to screw me over and blah, blah, blah. But they were patient. And then they sent me a couple of photos and I got to work and the stuff was used and I was happy about it.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing it that way because, you know, because the airlines are known for, you know, getting your luggage there.
Losing stuff?
Yeah, right. Actually, to tell you the truth, what's kind of funny is that wasn't the only project that I had done that I had to put on airplane. I also did a couple of pieces of artwork for ABC. I don't know if you guys remember After School Special that they used to have 1 year ago. I was an actor in 2 or 3 of them, and I did some art. And see the way Pops has the art on his wall there, like the frame pieces, and you have stuff. I wound up doing a superhero-looking poster that was put on the wall. Instead of them going out and buying something, which they'd have to license, I just drew something and colored it, and then they put it up on the wall, and it makes it look like it's a real poster. Like as if I made a fictitious band poster or a wanted poster or something, and they hung it up in the background.
And that's one of the things that production artists do for movies is they make this thing.
I've done badges for security guards. I've done fake license plates for cars. For the Bigfoot movie that came out a couple of years ago, not only did I do the DVD cover, but I also did the wanted posters that were tacked up on all the trees. I sent them the file, and what they did was like rub some dirt on it, nail it to a tree, boom. Or there was another movie called Succubus, which was about like a female devil or female demon, and I had done pictures, and they were used in the credits. So as the credits are rolling and the names are rolling, there'd be like a spot where there'd be a piece of artwork, and the credits would keep rolling, and the artwork would go out, and then there'd be another one, and it was pretty cool. Dusty Fleshman was the person behind that, and it was actually pretty cool.
You spent a little bit of your career, maybe not a little bit, probably a good chunk of it, in professional wrestling. Were you okay? So I know people who worked in professional wrestling and they didn't wrestle a single match. They worked as bookers, or they did the T-shirt art. James Lee is on our show a lot. He did. He went to Japan and basically did the T-shirt logos for a lot of the wrestlers there for a while. What did you do, and which wrestling organization was it with?
Well, I started out wrestling with small organizations, like little organizations, and at the time, it's not like it is today. At the time, you could literally work like, we're going to go to like a veterans hall, and a couple of guys are going to get together, and we're just going to throw some matches together. No belt, no organization. Just, tonight is, Pop's night, and we're, donating all the money to Pop's, charity, whatever it is. And
comicbooksforkids.org. Oh,
and there'd be like 10 guys, and we'd put on like matches, and we'd have an interview, and we'd, ham it up with the crowd and whatever. So after doing a couple of nights like that, I started working with the CWL, which is California Wrestling League. They had a television show every week out of Orange County. And George De La Isla, who used to be Mr. Mexico in the WWE, ran a gym. So we started going from there to Las Vegas. I worked with the USWA. I wrestled a couple of times with the AWA, WCCW, did a couple of WWF matches. Actually was at Madison Square Garden once too. And it was a lot of fun. And I started out being the Brooklyn Warrior, and there was so many different warriors. It was Dingo Warrior, and there was this one and that one. So I said, you know what, I got to go for a name change. And when I started working with the USWA, they said, because I used to gamble in Las Vegas all the time. I was pretty heavy into it for a while. They said, well, why don't you use your nickname that there? And I said, oh, Wild Card? Okay, let's do that. So I went ahead and I did Wild Card. And right after that, I won the belt in the USWA, and I held it for a while. And I hold the distinction of being the only wrestler to be put out of wrestling by the referee. Not by another wrestler, but by the referee.
Okay.
I was in a steel cage match with Ed Venture, who was known as the Snake Charmer out of Boston. And we were at football. We were outside on a football field in the ring in a steel cage. And it was taped for TV in Utah. We must have been in the steel cage for like 58 minutes, 59 minutes. Wasn't quite an hour. And at one point, either his back gave out or his leg gave out, whatever it was, and he just hit the floor. And I got up and bloody, like just covered in blood, like you wouldn't believe. The gloves that I'm wearing in that picture there were so bad, caked with blood and dried because we were out in the sun, that they actually had to cut them with scissors off of me because they couldn't get them off. Because the leather all shrunk up and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I walked out. I called for the door to be open. It was one of those wrestling steel cage matches. I called for the door to be open. I walked out. Now, you have to understand, there's stairs outside the ring. So there's 3 stairs. I put my foot on the first step to go down. The stairs go this way, I go this way, and I fall flat on my face outside.
Oh,
And the referee just lifts up my arm. I can't do it with the other arm. It was this arm, but he lifted up my arm like behind me to show that I won the match. And I heard a pop, and that was it. Torn rotator cuff, and I literally I went from being I had my first distinction was great. I was the second youngest person to get a state athletic commission license in California. Roddy Piper was the first at 16, and I had just gotten it at 17. And then I went to the distinction of, oh, you're like the only wrestler that ever got put out by the referee.
wow.
So I wrestled.
What a freak accident kind of thing.
I wrestled a couple of times after that. It was very hard. We wrestled. We got into a tag team tournament in Las Vegas and we were close to the end. We were put close to the end because we were on TV all the time in Vegas, so we were local favorites. So it was Ed and I, and we were against the Samoans. And Ed had a really bad back, and I was favoring my shoulder. And Ed picked up, I don't remember which one of the Samoans. There's been like 20, 50, 100. No, I'm only kidding. There's been a bunch of them.
The whole island was here at one point.
Oh, really?
They're all still here. They all got the gold. Jeez.
They're a fantastic family. I actually worked on one of the films with Samo. But he picked him up and he had a problem with his back and he immediately dropped him. And he pinned him and that was the end of it. And we left because he was hurt too bad. But wrestling was great. I always tell people I would never have stopped wrestling if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't get stitched up so many times. That just killed me.
Well, you talked about how you were covered in blood in that one match. That goes back a ways because you used to see the wrestlers get all bloodied up and everything.
You do now too. It's AEW is getting kind of crazy. They're opening.
Okay, because I hadn't seen it in a long time. For a long time, it was very much soap opera in a squared circle. But how did you guys? I always heard stories like, hey, the booker would like slip a little razor blade so you'd like put a small cut on your head because that would bleed a lot, but it wouldn't hurt anything.
Listen, wrestling is like any other form of entertainment. There's a lot of athleticism and there's a lot of sportsmanship when it comes to wrestling. People say, "Oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake," but the funny thing is, I don't hear the same type of comment about ballet or opera. You can go to see Swan Lake 1,000,000 times, and regardless of who does it, the damn girl is going to spin around in a circle and sing and run away. Or the Nutcracker, everyone's going to come out in the same damn uniform. Yeah. With wrestling, it's a little different every night, depending on the area. Sometimes they'll test a pay-per-view match like 3 or 4 times before they get to the main thing. And then we'll have blackout matches, ones that never appear anywhere. They'll test a guy right in the ring in front of an arena. And I love it because whenever they do that, they dim the house lights, but they make the lights in the ring heavier so that they can make it hotter. So he'll sweat and be out of breath faster. And, little tricks like that. But anyway, so there's a lot of sportsmanship to it. When I was younger, guys would do that. I didn't have to do that in this match because the ring was kind of like chain link fence. So you
hit a cage match. You can get opened up pretty easy.
It was great. As a matter of fact, I have a scar here, and across the back of my neck, I have one that's about this long. It's like a crescent that goes all the way across, and I had gotten about 110 stitches in the back. And I've had staples. I had my eye open and bleeding down, and my arm was cut up here and was going all down. I've broken fingers. My nose was broken 13 times. So, it happens, no matter there is, when people say stuff like, oh, they're pulling punches. No, sometimes it wasn't like that. Sometimes you just take it, that's the way the script is. We used to have phrases. They don't have them anymore. You're wrestling Butterfly or Gladiator. Butterfly is you're completely scripted, like Madam Butterfly. You're completely scripted. Pops and I are going to get in the ring, and Pop's going to hit me with a chair when the referee isn't looking, and then you guys are going to dance for a little bit, and then in the end, you're done. And the referee would do this thing. You've probably seen this a million times. I'm going to check and see if their shoulders are down. So they put the referee would put his hand under the shoulder. It'd be like 1, 2. And they'd go like this, and then automatically they'd pop up. That was their, dramatis that would go into the ring. Or if he didn't move his hand, then boom, you're done. Or the timekeeper would give you signals: blink my left eye, blink my right eye, pretend to sneeze, comb my hair. It's all BS.
Yeah.
And then Gladiator is. All right, RJ, you're going to get out there. You're going to take one swing at Pops, and then you guys are going to do whatever the hell you want to do for 15 minutes. And then as long as Pops comes out on top, or as long as the two of you disqualify each other, we don't care what the hell you do. You're just filling time because what's-his-name is in the bathroom. And that's it. One time I was wrestling in Texas, and we would do like 6 shows a day. And the audience would go out, and then they'd come back in, and we'd say, like, you guys all on the left sit on the right now, or the front row, we're going to give you free shirts, but you're going to go back a couple of rows. So the one guy didn't show up, and I had already wrestled twice that day, and I was spent. I was spent. I couldn't even take a shower, to the point where I was sweating so bad, nothing was stopping it. So I was spent, and Mexican wrestler, luchador, came out, and he goes, my partner didn't show up, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, do you have another mask? And he goes, yeah. And I took the mask and I reversed it so that the inside was, outside. So I put the mask on, and it was white on the inside. It was a red mask. So he goes, that looks pretty good. I'm going to do that too. And he did it also. And then the promoter goes by and he goes, you look like 2 homos, that kind of thing. Everybody ribbed everybody, plain and simple. We made fun of everything from what size all the way to big asses to tattoos, whatever. Family was the only thing that was off limits. And it was a lot of respect, like tons. So the one guy goes, I know what you're going to do. You're Los Ambulatoris, and, you're on a mission, and on and on and on. So we went out there, 5-10 minutes. It was a squash match. I got thrown out. I pretended to sleep like I was down and not getting up. And my partner kept trying to tag me, and I was on the floor not moving. And then he got squashed, and then they carried us both out. And I was like, oh, my God, dude, this mask smells like the inside of a toilet. What the hell? And I was like, yeah, he drinks a lot of beer, man, and he burps a lot during matches. And I was like, okay, that's terrible.
So his extra mask was his actual mask. Wasn't extra at all.
Right. If you ever saw the Mickey Rourke movie, The Wrestler, where they're in the back room and they're going, I'm going to work on the leg. No, I'm going to work on the leg. Oh, crap. All right, I'll work on the neck. Okay, have you got a chair? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to use a garbage can, that kind of thing. Is your girlfriend going to be here? Yeah, okay. Tell her to put on her bathing suit and go out and be my whatever, valet. Blah, blah, blah. And on and on and on. You got a blade? Yeah, hold on a minute, and take scissors and cut the blade and hide it in the glove, hide it in the finger bandage, on and on and on. But it was no lack of respect. The big guys would give tips to the little guys. The little guys would always ask for an autograph, me included. The big guys and the little guys would all go out to like Denny's or KFC, or someone's wife brought pasta and it's in the back, 100 gallons of water or Gatorade later. Everybody goes back to the hotel. Somebody draws cards to see who's going to get the bed. And then the rest of you sleep on the floor, sleep in the tub, sleep in the shower, sleep in the car, that kind of thing. We'd always we'd always do stuff like draw on the guys who fall asleep on the bus. First guy to fall asleep on the plane, we super glue like a paper horn on his head or stuff like that. These are family moments you can't get back.
They were having fun, yo.
Yeah, exactly. I was growing up in St. Louis, and in the early '80s, I remember, wrestling at the Chase with Harley Race and Dick the Bruiser, and I would go to my aunt's house because that's where my great grandmother lived. She had Alzheimer's, and all she did was sit in her wheelchair all day and yell at the TV at the wrestling at the Chase because she would be egging them on and saying, "That boy's bleeding to death. Get him out of there."
Listen, America's first regular television show, wrestling. A lot of people don't seem to realize this, and we can draw comparisons now because we have hundreds of years of history to pull off. But the funny thing is, when you're really in it and things are going, you don't see it as much. But the thing is, which a lot of people don't understand, wrestling actually influenced comic books. Hey, Jay, how you doing? Oh, yeah.
Jay is the guy I was telling you about went to Japan to do the T-shirts, and he knows a lot of
Well, I envy that. I did so much artwork and so much bookkeeping for wrestling.
I got to meet Andre when I was about 10 years old. My stepdad used to take me and my little brother to the matches in AWA, back at the Minneapolis Auditorium when I was a little kid, right? And he would go back in the back where the dressing room is, and we'd stand outside and wait for the guys to come in and out, and he'd introduce them to his sons, right? So I met Andre. I was about 10 years old. I went to shake Andre's hand, and he grabbed my arm.
Yeah.
Basically shook my whole freaking body, right? I mean, his hand held my whole arm, How you doing? Dude was huge. I mean, when you're little, huge is really huge. But I mean,
right.
Even as an adult, you're looking up 2, 3, 2.5, 2 feet up at that guy. He was big,
right?
Yeah.
Jay brought up Terry Funk. We used to, when I lived in California, we would on the off. Well, there wasn't really an off season because it's a 24/7 thing with wrestling. But during some of the time where we had done taping and they were, we got like a couple of weeks off or whatever. We used to go to Patty's Restaurant, which was an outdoor restaurant in Burbank, California, Toluca Lake area, and Terry Funk and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and I and a couple of other guys, and we would play cards and we would order coffee and tea like all day long. It would piss off the waitresses. And then sometimes we would go to Bob's Big Boy and they would hassle the waitresses at the thing. So one time I'm sitting there and I have like a cup of tea. So this is my here we go. This is my cup of tea. Okay. So they're like, pouring coffee. How the waitresses come around and they freshen everybody's coffee. So I put my hand over the cup and I said, this is tea. Oh, okay, fine. So another waitress comes along and she's pouring coffee and I put my hand over the cup and she poured the hot coffee right on my hand. And everybody at the table was like, "No, that's tea. You're going to kill him." And she ran out. The waitress actually ran out of the restaurant at that point. And a guy comes over and he's like, "What did you do? What did you do to scare her? What did you do?" And I'm sitting there going,
Yeah, your hand is burnt. Rusty, I'm going to hand the wheel to Pops. He's going to drive the bus. I've got to jump to another stream, but I don't want this to end. So you guys keep talking, and I'll tune in later to my own show to see what happened. But thank you again for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And Pops, you're in good hands.
Adios.
I'll see you in a little while.
All right, this is a first, taking over the Critical Blast.
Now I know that Woody and Jay mentioned Haystacks Calhoun. I feel so bad about what happened to him at the end, but unfortunately, a lot of wrestlers like Haystacks and Maurice Vachon and a number of others, they go through a lot of these heavy injuries.
Yeah,
everything from diabetes to on and on, giantism, whatever. He actually led a very hard life, and he died kind of hard. He did, but he did leave a legacy. A lot of people loved his work. I loved his work. Haystacks was a really super guy to talk to. Very nice, in his own way. He was very polite. The good thing about the great thing about wrestling, I shouldn't say good, but the great thing, yeah, mine too. They were
That
fantastic.
dog was crazy, man. I used to love that dude.
And also, let's not forget, Luna Vachon was also.
Oh yeah, the daughter. She was a nut too.
She had half of her head shaved with the tattoo, but guys, they work hard, they play hard, they die hard. That's the way their life is. It's just like Kevin Sullivan. He was a crazy. He went all the way through his wrestling career. He's still wrestling now. He's still wrestling now. But great, great talents, great guys. It's a shame because you grow up knowing a pocket full of names, and then after a while, they're gone. And it's a shame that a lot of the older wrestling footage got all bought up by McMahon, and they tried to do the WWE channel and WWF channel, whatever. I used to have so many videotapes going all the way back, matches all the way back to the 50s, 40s, and they're all gone now. All the tapes have been, over time they turn white and they won't play. One tape, I was right in the middle of watching a match, and then it was like, boop, and that was the end of it. And I was like, oh, I can't fix this. This is it. It was almost like you had to bury it in the backyard, like you're a kid with your fish. I felt like hell. But what can you do?
The last rites and shit.
Exactly. Andre, we'd be in the back room. He'd be playing poker because he loved cards. And hey, how are you? And we would talk for a little bit and whatever. And one of his classic things, like you said, where he shook your arm, one of his classic things is he would pull the ring off of his finger, and the ring was so big you could pass a coin through the ring and it wouldn't touch the sides because it was so big. His fingers, they were like sausages.
Dude, they were huge. That's what I mean. It's like the palm of his hand is up to about here, and then his tips of his fingers are at my collarbone, and he's just shaking my whole body.
There was a famous interview that he did. I don't remember which late night host that it was, but he took his hand, he's this giant mitt, and he put it right in front of his face, and it was like this wide on the guy's face, and his whole head disappeared. Oh yeah, Jay. Yeah, he liked wine. He also liked champagne too. But he got really mad. I never saw him get mad. But I wasn't there, but I heard the story. He was at the Philadelphia Spectrum, and he was wrestling Killer Khan. And Killer Khan, he was bald, but he had that Q. And what happened was a lot of people were I don't want to say jealous, but they were upset that Andre would get so much attention just because of his size. Sometimes guys would be huge and stars, and they wouldn't get as much attention. Andre would be on the card, and whoever had the belt would be like a second-class citizen to Andre. So
I'm a little different than Mr. Carter. I definitely show all the chat. I make sure everybody knows. You can see what they're saying.
Yep.
I run a little different show than RJ does.
So
give me the reins, boy.
What happened was Killer Khan got annoyed with Andre, and he actually broke his ankle right in the ring. And Andre got really pissed. So he pulled himself up along the side of the ropes. And when Khan got close, he grabbed him by the queue and he put his hand around his neck. He gave him the most vicious slam, unprepared, unrehearsed slam. And it knocked the wind out of Khan. And then Andre, without even thinking, just fell forward straight on him. He must have broken ribs. Khan did not wrestle Andre ever again after that.
Yeah.
But I never saw him lose his cool ever. He was always, it's funny because he was always a big kid. He was very polite to everybody. He was always fun. He was like the ambassador of wrestling. The way people think of Hogan or John Cena now, they thought of Andre back then. And he started out as a soccer player. He was on the French national team as a soccer player. He thought he had a future, like with the team and with the Olympics and on and on and on. And then boom, he turned into this giant of a man, and it ruined his career. But he was a fantastic soccer player.
Man, I can't imagine him little.
I can't either. I can't imagine him playing soccer.
I can't imagine him as a youngster growing up. I can't imagine how he looked as a youngster. Was he a big kid? Was he, just suddenly go boom and blow up?
From what I understand, he was a big-shouldered but very thin, gangly kid that was very tall for his age, and he was a great soccer player. They wanted him to go into basketball, but it wasn't a big deal in that part of Europe. And one summer he'll come back and he's, like boom, it's like someone filled him up with air. So
there you go. Haystacks and Andre, it's a tag team.
Yeah. Yep. I met I never met Pat Patterson, but I met Mean Gene. And Lord Alfred Hayes, big commentator who wrestled, obviously, but a big commentator. He was actually the matchmaker at WWF for a very long time. He was a secret voice behind the scenes. And when NWA, WCW broke up, Arn Anderson worked behind the scenes as a secret guy, too. They would do a lot of matchmaking, a lot of training of the new guys. Right. They would scout talent. Bob Backlund used to scout talent all the time. He would be like on one flight, watch a wrestling match at a school, then another one, he'd go somewhere else. Then he'd be, secretly at like some other organization's matches, whatever. And he was like a baseball scout. He'd find somebody and they'd do really good and he'd get a percentage and he'd move on to the next guy. And then they said, we're oldies are back and we'd like to have you in the ring. And they brought him back in the ring. And he actually had a really a good career, a second career. But he was a great matchmaker for a long time.
And this here, too, y'all got to understand, wrestlers and the wrestling community is a huge part of some of the biggest charitable organizations.
Wrestlers have a very unique distinction. Let me tell you something that's a little bit behind the scenes. You will have wrestlers who will get arrested for driving drunk. You'll have wrestlers who will, take drugs or blah, blah, blah. That's just human qualities. That has nothing to do with wrestling or whatever. Today's sportsmen, you've got NBA and NFL players who are, taking
felons, serious crimes.
They're taking knees and they're writing stuff on their skin and they're doing, special tattoo stuff and on and on and on. And you've got, beating up their girlfriends and one got arrested for dog fighting and blah, 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 blah. And they might be good to their fans, but they're not the icons that people look up to. And wrestlers have this very unusual distinction. You're a good guy. You're in with people. you're kissing babies and hugging old ladies and donating your time, make a wish, and on and on and on, or you're just out. Like there have been so many guys who have been in and done great, and then they're out. And I can tell you one that was very popular was Lex Luger. He was in, and he was a great guy, America's champion. He wrestled on what was it, the Indianapolis, or was it the? It was the bridge of some ship. He had a special match on, and it was all for the armed forces. But then he got in with Miss Elizabeth, who was Randy Savage's ex. A lot of people don't know this. They were married before he got to the WWF, and they did a fake marriage in the ring, and they were already divorced at that time. And it was Luger and Marcus Alexander Bagwell and her. And it was I won't go into a lot of detail, but he's linked to the drug part of her death. And once that happened, McMahon hit the ceiling. Elizabeth was the doll at the time, and Bagwell was literally escorted out of the building and shoved on his butt, and Luger was pretty much ostracized after that. I don't think the two of them ever had a kind eye towards them again. But guys like Roddy Piper, guys like Magnificent Morocco, Don Morocco, on and on and on. They were bad guys, in the ring. They were heels. Yeah. But people loved them.
Yes, they were, and they were nice guys outside. If you met them outside, they were nice guys. It's like everybody that I met, even like as an adult wrestlers, I met Kevin Nash, people like that. They're just cool people.
Right. It's a different kind of a situation because you're really putting out. I mean, I don't want to make slight of any other sport, but you're playing baseball, it's literally money ball. You're playing basketball, it's literally money ball. Football, it's obviously more than money ball. But when you're wrestling, you're killing yourself. I remember doing wrestling matches, and all I got was dinner.
Yeah,
I got on a bus one time. I went 7 or 9 hours to Las Vegas. I got to the Stardust Hotel. It's obviously gone now, right. And they gave me a room with 2 other guys. I wound up going to the old Showboat in Old Las Vegas. I paid for my own cab, $15. I got there, wrestled 3 times, and I wound up getting chicken and noodles for dinner. And then they said, "Do you want to stick around? We're going to be doing this again in a couple of weeks." It's like, I don't live here. I live in California. And it's like, well, you'll have to come back because whatever. So I turned to one of the other guys and I'm going, "What are you going to do?" And he goes, "Well, there's a Christmas tree lot that's going to start in a couple of days. I'm going to hang around and see if I can get work with them." Another guy's like, "Well, there's a circus passing through town. I'm going to take the circus train," which was a business term of, picking up shy work. Mm-hmm. He's like, "I'll just work as a roustabout and then I'll be back in 2 weeks and I'll be whatever." So I told the guy, I says, "If you liked what I did, send me a message and I'll come back." And sometimes it was a yes, and sometimes I never heard from them again. And, on and on and on. I slept on buses. I slept in the back of the car one time. I couldn't get a hotel. I slept in the shower at an arena on top of towels on the floor of a shower one time. Security guard scared the hell out of me one time in the middle of the night. But that's what you do. One time I wrestled and I said, "You guys have a room I can have for the night and I'll be back tomorrow." And they said, "Well, tell you what, you sweep up and we'll let you stay in the arena till tomorrow." So I actually wound up sweeping up after everything was done. I had already wrestled a couple of times that day, and I wound up sleeping on a massage table at night and waking up in the morning, and my breakfast was yesterday's donut and whatever was left over for coffee. And then I got to wrestle again for a couple of times, and I got paid, which was just enough for me to go home and flop in bed for 2 days because it was so sore.
This is funny. What he said, he got to see Rick Rude once, and someone in the audience shouted Medusa can whoop his ass. And he just looked back and said, she does.
Rick Rude was another sad story too. You know, a lot of these guys, sometimes they're great in the ring. They're awesome guys. And then all of a sudden, you know, they have a sad ending, or they have a sad beginning, and wrestling found them. It's one wrestler told me one time, wrestling is like religion. You don't find it, it finds you. So people would be like, you know, I was in grade school and high school, and I was smaller than everybody else. And I used to get put in rockers, thrown in garbage cans, knock the books out of my hand. I would get screwed over. So when I got to college, I said, "Oh, I'm going to like to try, you know, boxing." And none of the kids from my past schools were at my college. So I thought, I've got a new chance here. So I'm boxing, and I really did not like it. I kept getting hit in the face all the time, and I was just not good at it. So this big, heavy-set guy walks up to me, and he goes, "I bet you really want to kick that guy, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I can't do that. This is boxing." And he goes, "What if I could show you a way that you could, like, let loose, knock this guy to the floor, hammer his head, kick his ass?" I'm like, "Well, that sounds really good." That was Dr. Jerry Graham, superstar Billy Graham's uncle.
Right.
And he took me in, and I wrestled in my first couple of matches, and I won, and that's what I got started. But they're right. I didn't go for wrestling. Wrestling found me.
You know this story about Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude hustling guys in the bar.
Yep, I've heard stuff like that. I've also I remember when the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan got drunk in the middle of the night, and they wanted hamburgers. So they took a cab and they went to the local McDonald's, and it wasn't open. It was closed. So what they did was they picked up the bus bench and threw it through the front window of the McDonald's. They were so drunk, they climbed over the counter, and they were trying to cook hamburgers for themselves when the cops drove up and arrested them. And Bruno Sammartino's son, David Sammartino, was supposed to wrestle one night. I think it was in Virginia. And not only didn't he show up, he got arrested for drunk driving. And the promoter had to give tickets to all the cops so that they would let him go so that he could show up at the arena and wrestle on TV. It was a total bribe, but it was just very funny. You know, the thing is that they're all human. I mean, that's just what it is.
Everybody's got their thing, man.
Yeah,
everybody's got their demons, right?
It's not as bad. It's not as bad as the sports that are going on today. It really isn't. Too much politics, too much BS. Hitting your girlfriend and beating up somebody, and you know, this guy got arrested and this guy's going to jail, and on and on and on. It was stupid stuff. It was stupidity. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that these guys were so loved by their fans. They could go out and set fire to a church, and if they beat Roddy Piper that night, they'd be like, "Oh, it was just a church, no big deal." I mean, nobody, you know, they would forgive them their sins. They didn't care. So, oh yeah, that's cool. I've heard that before. I actually did a show a couple of years ago with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We were both signing autographs at a hotel in Pennsylvania. And he's one of the sweetest guys. He really is. Another guy who was really sweet, that God bless him, he passed away, was Superfly Snuka.
Yes.
I won an award, Lifetime Achievement Award for art from a martial arts organization. I was working on their film, and they were giving out awards. And Jimmy Superfly Snuka presented me with my award at a convention in New Jersey. Awesome guy, but he had a hard end as well. They said that he killed his girlfriend, and then he passed away right in the middle of everything that was going on, which is good because nobody ever thought that he did it. But the thing is that he didn't have to suffer through what everybody else does. All of the sideways glances and all of the accusations and whatever. God bless him. He was such a great guy. He came from that Islander, that quote unquote family. The Rock, the Samoans,
and he's got Tamina in WWE right now.
Yeah.
His daughter.
Well, those days are gone, unfortunately. Those heavy days of arena matches, and I remember when we wrestled at the Long Beach Arena in California. Those guys were a hoot. They had like a family of people that worked behind the scenes, and here we came in as like a family of guys who worked in the ring, and it was great. Roustabouts who would put the ring up and sweep the arena and hang up all the banners and put up the giant screen, like what they call the Titantron, all of that, all those guys. Sometimes we'd be just sitting there watching them, and they'd be like, why don't you pansies get off your ass and come help us? Earn your keep for a change instead of being, blankety blank wearing flower pants in the ring like you're on a fashion show. we would get up and we'd nail stuff up and put stuff down, and we had one guy that would carry the anvil that the spring would go on for the floor of the arena,
right.
And on and on and on, and we were like, oh my God, it's hernia time, this guy coming up with the anvil and everything. Great, they were great times, but you know what? I only did it for a short time. I hung around them for a lot longer, and then I was part of a group that helped the organization, the USWA, get its restart. We did it with Herb Nero, who used to be one of the front men for WWF, and he was a political commentator on Channel 56 in Orange County, California, and he had his own show. He was like a Jerry Springer, and Herb and I and a number of others, we put on wrestling shows at the Ambassador Hotel, and that was the hotel that Robert Kennedy got killed at. Beautiful in the Coconut Ballroom, beautiful. But then it got to be too hard, and Herb got older, and then he passed away, and on and on and on. And it's like ripples in the water. You're right there in the center, and then all of a sudden you get a little farther out and a little farther out, and then once you're too far out, you can never go back to the middle again, and you're gone. And that's basically what happened to me. I started talking to the guys less and started working less, and that was the end of it. And then, marriage, kids, comic work, and boom, here I am talking to you with the funny hat.
Oh man, the hat. Yeah, I take shit for the hat. What can I tell you?
I think we've sufficiently bored everybody here to death.
No, actually, I mean, we've had the same amount of the same people watching and interested. Jay and Woody, they're all into this. I really don't know how long AJ wanted this to run, or RJ wanted this to run.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll tell you what. On the comic side, just as a little refresher to push off of wrestling a bit, I just got done painting baseball cards for Topps Baseball. I do those on a regular basis, and I very much enjoy working with them. Baseball cards are kind of a strange nut because you have to deal with licensing and likenesses, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm working. I'll share a picture with you real quick. Let's see. There we go.
I'm gonna share some stuff with you. What do you think of that? Who's that, Rusty? Who's that?
Ah, there you go. That's the cosplayer Lovey Lee, and he plays the Black Panther. He's an awesome guy. We met at Wizard conventions a couple of times. I was a guest at Wizard for about 8 years in a row. And that's Clyde Leonard. He's the G.I. Joe cosplayer. That's my character, Mac. Yep, the plop character.
Now, Rusty signed a bunch of these for my grandson that says to Isaac on them. A whole bunch of cards. He's got a collection of Rusty Gilligan signed cards here. So
and I tell people if they're interested in getting some signed cards, all they have to do. Excuse me, I'm sitting in front of a fan, so it's blowing in right while I'm talking. Sorry. All they have to do is just send me postage, and I'll just dump a whole bunch of signed cards on them. I have tons of cards, over 100 promo cards and set cards going all the way back. So all people have to do is just go look for me on Facebook. Send me a message. I talk to everybody.
That's an artist proof, yo. Artist proof. Rusty Gilligan.
So these are the baseball cards. These are some of the cards from one of the past sets. I'm pretty good with likenesses, and then what I do is I do something special. I go ahead and I pencil and ink the players, and then I make a copy of them, like a physical copy, like a Xerox, and then I cut them out with a razor. I place them right back on top of the card, and I weigh them down with like quarters and nickels, things like that, and then I airbrush the background. So you can see. Let me see. I'll make one a little larger. You can see the way the back is kind of like got like a spritz to it. The white going in. The yellow going into the red. Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. I do the same thing with. I have other cards that I've done. I've done in recent months. I've worked on cards for Topps, Cryptozoic, Dynamite. I'm supposed to be doing a set for Rittenhouse coming up. Artists Assemble, which is a smaller company, but it's actually a great company. And then I put out my own card sets as well. But I have some comics, and I have a couple of card sets that my studio is putting out later this year. So I'll be sure to hit you guys up when we're getting close to that and give you the exclusive, like I promised you the last time on your show. I'll be definitely giving you the exclusive on that one. This one's a big one because it involves some very big people.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. And I want to thank you again for jumping at me and saying, hey, I want to throw some cards on the campaign. That that's not a lot for me.
Anytime. I like helping people. I grew up at a time where people were like argumentative and crabby to each other. And an old pro came up to me. I don't want to say his name, but because he's gone and he would hate it if I gave him attention. But an old pro came up to me one time and he said, you can write volumes of negative crap every day. The trick is to write one small piece of something positive and keep it going. And that's why I never put anything negative on my Facebook page. I never put anything negative anyplace. It's always positive stuff. It's always fun. I put up contests. I'm doing one this week on my Facebook page for everyone. And I give away free art. And I like to help people. So, people that have campaigns or whatever, hit me up. I don't mind helping out. It doesn't cost me anything. And I get a lot of pleasure out of it.
Yeah, so if you want to sign a Rusty Gilligan sketch card with your Cromniverse anthology book, just trip on over there to the Enter the Cromniverse campaign on Indiegogo and get you a Rusty Gilligan sketch card. Just that.
And if anybody wants any signed promo cards, all they have to do is message me. I just need the postage, and I'll fill an envelope with cards and send them to them.
And he does. He did that to us. He sent Isaac a big old stack of cards.
Batman, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, Black Panther, wrestlers like Gene Snitsky or the Boogeyman from WWF. We've got tons of them. They're just sitting. because I used to do shows, so I would bring stacks of them. I'd bring like stacks of them to shows, and kids would come up and I'd sign them and I'd hand it to them. And I used to have free toys and I used to have free candy dish and on and on and on. But I haven't done a show in like 3 years now because the COVID thing, and then my back has been very bad, and
I
it
have
just
a request. I have a request.
Cool.
I want a wild card sketch card, but I want wild card hanging out with Crom.
Hey, listen,
I want you to draw yourself when you were a young wrestler hanging out with my character Crom. That's what I want.
I tell everybody, if you want me to do something, just send me a message. It's so much easier because I use my messages like a schedule.
Right.
It's my external hard drive. That's what I can, so that this way I don't have to commit anything to the old noggin.
Oh, I get it. Trust me. I have people hit me up in the middle of the show. Hey, man, can I come on your show? And it's like, can you wait till after the show's over and ask me?
Right. Hey, listen. That's the way the business is. As an entertainer. I answered you, buddy.
Cool. That's how we do it.
Jay, I hit the button already for you, bud. I tell people all the time, that's the way the industry is. You have, every once in a while somebody will come up and they'll be like, can you look at my artwork? Give me a critique. And I'll be like, yeah, sure. You need to learn anatomy, or the shading is off a little bit. It's always, a woman's breast is in a bad angle, or a guy's eye is off or something, or wow, this looks really good. How do you do with blah blah blah? How do you do with animals or whatever? And if I've got a set going, sometimes sight unseen, I'll just invite people to work on a project. I've given a lot of people their first shot in the industry, which I also enjoy. I actually have one lady that did cards for me something like 15 years ago, and she's doing cards now like a monster, better than me. But her first job was on one of my sets, and she's always giving me, thank you, I really appreciate it. If it wasn't for you, blah blah blah. And it's so nice to hear.
Yeah, I've met a few artists that didn't have any like credited work, and I brought them out here in the madness and got them seen, and now they're on covers and they're doing, it's like,
you know what though, Pops, and I'll end it on this because I don't want to bore anybody, but I will tell you this. You have to give them a good turn. You have to teach them the nice attitude. You have to teach them what's right and wrong. Yep. Because if you don't, they're going to hook up with somebody who's got a crabby or bad attitude, and they're going to teach them the wrong thing. They're going to be the ones to say, oh, don't work for free, blah, blah, blah. You're going to make someone else rich, and on and on and on. They're going to be the ones to say, oh, your work is worth a lot more than $20, $50, $100. You're underpricing yourself, and, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if you feel that way, you hire them and pay them the money. Whoop, they're gone. Mm-hmm. So, you know what? If you don't teach people how to be positive, because it used to be that they were positive because they were happy that they were working.
Yeah.
Now they're not. You have to teach people to be positive. So every day I talk to a couple of people online. I'll say hi to you every once in a while. I'll say hi to someone else every once in a while, because I don't forget people, and I hope nobody will forget me. And if you don't keep that positivity going, industry is just going to circle right back to the 90s where everybody was crabby, or right back to the late 2000s where everybody was crabby again. And it's going to be another free-for-all. Right now, we're on the cusp of a brand new industry because of all this COVID stuff dying down.
Have fun, everybody. That's what Rusty's trying to say. Have fun and pass the fun along.
Right. That's it. That's it. You got to give everybody a transfusion of your positive attitude. I don't want to sound all heady and everything, but the thing is,
it's really true.
It is. It's very true. I've had people that I've hired that had absolutely no experience. I've guided them all the way through the process. I give them 20 cards. 5 of them look good. The other 15 look like, nonsense, and I would guide them through. I would get their cards and I would help color them, or I would pencil something in the background, or I would add something to it, get a script, give suggestions. I don't want credit. I just want them to do good, because if they do good, then the industry does good. It's like this old saying that I heard when I was doing the Marvel film years ago. When if a Spider-Man film comes out, the whole industry does good, because people are interested in comics. They're not just interested in Spider-Man. They're interested in comics. Right. So when somebody has a success, the whole industry has a success. That's just it. So, but anyway, my friend, I will let you go. I hope to God you do really good on your campaign, and don't forget that like I said, if you need something on your campaign more than that, Pops, you can get in touch with me. Hopefully people will be interested in the cards.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of them are gone. Not one of yours yet, but like I said, we're just now getting to the point where we have the page, almost complete, where we can really go out and start pushing it.
Right.
So,
make sure everybody goes to Pop's campaign. I have the distinction of having some sketch cards up there, and for everybody that's listening, I will give you extra stuff if you support his campaign and pick up one of the sketch cards. So you pick up one of the sketch card rewards, which is cheap. He has it cheap because I told him I don't want it to be a big thing, and I'll give you extra stuff. All you got to do is mention, his show or his name or Critical Blast, whatever. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a good night, and God bless you all, everybody. And maybe we'll talk again later, dude.
Oh, we will. We will. We'll probably try to figure out a way to sneak you into PromCon.
Well, I can't wait to tell you about this new project. You're going to flip out when you hear this new one. When will you be able to? I would say probably about a month. It's got celebrities involved. It's got a big name involved. It's got some tie-in projects, comics and cards, and it's got items with it. It's going to be huge. My last campaign went 600% over. I have a feeling this one's going to go way over that. This one's going to be giant.
I will do my best to make sure that you just let me know when I can start talking about it, brother.
You got it, brother. You all have a good night. It was nice talking to all of you, and look me up.
Thanks a lot, man.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Good show, everybody. Now, since I got the reins, I get to do this. I'm going to play our new trailer, and then I think I got RJ's outro here, but here you go. Y'all have a great night.
The Comics-Related Madness presents Enter the Cromnyverse, an anthology featuring a little green dude with a bat.
Yeah, listen, it's me, Crom, the world's first real-life internet troll. So there's a whole gang of creators making an anthology starring yours truly. We're talking 15 creators, 13 stories, another 8 folks creating merchandise, all for your entertainment. Indiegogo is the place you want to go to back this glorious project. This anthology features my lovable self crossing over in today's best independent comic books and graphic novels, causing chaos everywhere I go. In addition, we're going to be offering custom painted shoes, black light tapestries, sketch cards, alternate covers, adorable crocheted mini-me's, original art, and sculptures.
Anyway, back in today, only on Indiegogo.